Chris Altman. And, you know, this is a huge topic that I feel like is super revolutionary to or revolutionized to our industry in regards to how agents work more efficiently. I have a lot of agents on my end that use AI to create content, and there's just so much that we can go over. But today I wanted to bring Chris on here because he wants to go over some of the main platforms that he thinks is very relevant to agents in all categories, whether you're new or seasoned. And I know we all know ChatGPT, but just something that we can start incorporating on our day to day. But before we get started, I did want to ask you, Chris. It seems that right now AI is the hot commodity. Can you share with us like just some of the AI tools that you use right now on your day to day?
Well, I'm going to go into this presentation about how there are different tools that have different strengths and weaknesses, right? And so,
Yeah.
um, like we use between me and my assistant, we use ChatGPT a lot because that one really focuses around content. Um,
Hmm.
I also use a tool called Perplexity that does better research and deep data mining around things and comes up with actually has less chance of what's called hallucinating because it kind of shows all its sources and all that kind of stuff. I use we use Gamma as well as Claude to produce images and things like this. And I know like even I don't use it as much because my assistant uses Canva. Canva has an AI tool built into it, right, to help out with creating those graphics and stuff like that. It seems like, I
Right.
mean, you mentioned it's revolutionizing. It seems like AI is integrated in nearly everything now. I mean, every piece of electronics you pick up has an AI button or an AI
Feature.
something that can do it, and I think it's important to understand what AI can do for you and what it can't do for you, and really how to think of it as an add-on product, not a replacement or anything like that. So yeah, that I'm looking forward to talk a little bit about that. And this presentation really is a very base level intro. So if anybody's on here and you've done and you have, lots of AI tools, you have your AI platform list, you have your processes, you have your prompt structures down, stuff like that. This is going to be pretty basic for you. If if there's people on here that have opened up ChatGPT and asked it some questions and been really cool or had it create some property descriptions, but that's about as deep as you go, today is going to be very beneficial because it's going to kind of open more doors to like what else is out there and how do I really get it to use to really work for me. So yeah.
One of the cool, so just since we're kind of on this topic, one of the cool features that I notice about like just a paid chat GPT, because of course, I use it to save time and just help me collaborate with some ideas. One of the coolest things I'm noticing, there's a feature on ChatGPT where you could speak to it, and when it speaks back to me, it talks like me. And it's really
Ooh.
funny the slang and everything, the way that I speak, it's very spot on. And I think, something that I'm sure you could talk about too is when the more you use it, the more it learns about you and the way that you think a little bit, which is kind of scary, but also very helpful for the way that we need to kind of be authentic in our own way, I feel like.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it is scary, but it's controllable and something you just have
Sure.
to think about and manage. It is still a tool. It's not a replacement. It's not a friend. It's not a buddy, but it's a tool that you're utilizing with
Yeah.
yourself and to help you out, and that's pretty awesome. Those and
What's
the vocal stuff in it is pretty amazing.
Yeah, what's like one biggest mistake that you see agents make when they start implementing AI?
Um,
And
I'm gonna pull from my mistake and
yeah,
others that I've seen is thinking that it will do everything or thinking that it will do all of something,
uh,
right? Um, I, I run a book club and I read a book and they had the 10-80-10 rule basically. You give it 10% of instruction, right? And then it does 80% of the work. And then you have a final 10% that you got to do at the end to make sure everything's right and that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of agents look over that. They think it's going to be a 10-90, right? They're going to give it a little bit, it's going to do all the stuff and they're going to output a finished, perfect product. And It's not going to do that, right? That's rare. And so and that frustrates a lot of agents. They want a one and done kind of I just want to give it to something and have it do it and whatever. And so there's two takeaways from that. One, get used to the fact that you're going to put some energy in the beginning and you're going to put some energy in it at the end and you're going to have a great product. And two, understand that the 80% that it does in the middle is going to do it at 1,000 times the speed that you could do yourself or anybody else. So it really is a time saving and just a frustration and a task saving tool. But it's not a replacement of anything that you have. It just makes everything go faster and in the like in ChatGPT, it could probably come up with better content and better copy than you could if you sat there for 30 minutes trying to
Yeah,
something out. It's
think of something.
30
Yeah.
seconds. It's going to spit something out that's way better than you would have thought of.
Yeah, it definitely should enhance your thinking for sure. I want
Yeah.
to ask one more question just because you are a broker and maybe you see things more than others, like a newer agent, but on whether we're talking about realtors, whether we're talking about lenders, title companies, I mean, you name it, uh, AI will affect our industry regardless. Where do you think AI is headed in the next few years? Because I think it's a lot sooner than we think. It's maybe less than 5 years. Um, what's like a misconception about AI that you can clear up, and what do you kind of anticipate with it moving forward?
It's, I mean, if I crystal ball it and really look out there, it's gonna get rid of a lot of the middle stuff, right? Even the contract prep and stuff like that, it's gonna be able to handle that. And I'm gonna go back to my last statement. You still have to put in that initial 10 and that end 10, right, to make things work, because it doesn't have a feeling. It's not going to know your people. It's not going to know your clients, right? It's not going to know really what they're feeling, what face they made when they walked into this house to make it feel right. It's not going to know mid negotiation who's feeling more hurt, who's feeling less hurt, how to get a win-win out of a situation. It's going to know all of the possible solutions
Hmm.
and throw them at you, and it's still going to be our job as the human interaction to understand which solution really is going to work best in this situation. So I think what it's going to do is it's going to level a bit of the playing field. A lot of the people that don't have as much background in the technicalities of real estate are going to have AI to help them.
All right.
And a lot of the people that rely too much on their own personal skills are going to get they're going to get everybody's going to catch up to them, right? And using that. So I see that. We use AI in our brokerage. We have an AI broker bot, that we can talk to. And
Mm,
as far as like just the raw interpretation of the law, the raw interpretation of the contracts, those are all pretty cut and dry, right? And still about that only actually answers probably 70% of the questions that run through it, right? There's still a 30% of the questions that the just text of the rules aren't gonna purely figure it out, right?
right.
And so you got to get some human interaction in there. So it's not going to get rid of the human interaction, but it's going to take 70% of it and make it pretty cut and dry and boilerplate and knock that stuff out.
Yeah, no, that's so good. I couldn't agree more. But let's go ahead and get started. If you have any questions while we're presenting, I'll go ahead and watch the question, the Q&A box for you, Chris. But go ahead. The floor is yours, Chris.
Absolutely. Well, so like I said, this is an intro. If you've
Yeah.
tooled around with it and created a listing description or shot some text into Chat GPT and that's about your depth, this right here is going to open it up for you. So I really want to set expectations around that. I have personally experimented with a jillion different AI platforms. I by no means am a you know deep AI expert where I'm going to write a book about it or anything like that, but I use it in my day-to-day life and we've experimented with it in our brokerage and that kind of stuff. So I hope that helps, justify my stance on this kind of stuff, but really I want to open doors here. So we're going to dive into intro to AI. Really, what I want to talk about is, one, what is AI? It is a tool, right? It's not a replacement. There's been plenty of, I'm sure everybody on here has heard this saying, and it's said by many people. It's like, jobs will not be replaced by AI, but people not using AI will be replaced by people using AI, right? So that's the key. The people are still there, but the people using AI are going to easily surpass the capacities of those that are not using AI in their tools. And it really comes down to time saving. Somebody utilizing AI can do 3 or 4 times the work than somebody not utilizing AI. So that's really what AI is. It generates human-like responses. It goes out and does tremendous amounts of research and gathers things. It's accessible to pretty much everyone. Although, Michael, you pointed out you have a pay version of it. They all have their, I mean, they're all profit models, right? Whether they're profit or non-profit, programs, they still cost money to create. So you're going to pay money, right, to get the better stuff. And right now, they're relatively inexpensive. When you really do want to integrate them into your work, into your job, they are low cost, low barrier to entry to get a lot of your tasks done faster. They are evolving amazingly. New capability. It says new capabilities every month. I'd say new capabilities nearly every day, right? But you have generative things that are coming along and evolving, and they're doing better and better and better. What Michael mentioned, the voice, you speak to it and talk back like that didn't exist a while ago, and they bring that in. It's pretty amazing. So we're going to learn about some of the different platforms today, and then we're going to talk about prompts. And I'm going to leave you with a few hands-on pieces, and then we're going to open up for questions. So I hope this doesn't take too terribly long, because this really is a discussion. I could just talk at people a lot about it, but it turns into like, how do we use it today? So there are some general purpose platforms out there. Everybody pretty much has heard of ChatGPT, right? That's probably the biggest, the most prevalent. There's another one, Claude, Gemini, Perplexity. There are a couple of other general. These are the top four platforms that exist. Now, these are platforms that have a full AI generative engine behind them, right? So they aren't AI attached to something, they are their own AI piece, right? And so these are the four. Now, this over here says specialized tools, marketing and content. So they do line up here. ChatGPT is great for marketing and content. Claude is great for coding and assistance. Gemini, great for design and visuals. Perplexity, workflow automation and research. And I'm going to touch on these right here. So of these four, ChatGPT, you have some strengths and weaknesses. Everybody's probably, put stuff in. It comes out with great copy. It can hallucinate. It needs some fact checking. We can talk about towards the end of this when you're developing your prompts, how you can have it check itself. It doesn't automatically check itself, but you can force it to, right? So that it doesn't hallucinate so much. And if people don't know what hallucinate means, that really just means it's going out and finding information. And then if it doesn't find all the information, it wants to fill in the blanks. Think of these as 5-year-olds that just want to make you happy, right? So yes, if they know the answer, they'll tell you the answer. But if they don't know the answer, they're probably going to make something up that they think will make you happy, right? And while it's not as crude as that, it can be like that. You can see that it can hallucinate and create information that might not be there. And so you can ask it to go back and check that. Claude itself, it does some great writing, longer context. It's a little bit slower. It it definitely can come up with some great visuals. In fact, this presentation that you're looking at today was built on Claude. Actually, it was created through Perplexity and then built on Claude. So what you're looking at here is exactly what Claude output as far as what I wanted it to do, and I'll show you how I got there. Gemini itself, multimodal. Gemini is the one that's built in. That's a Google product, right? So it's built into a lot of stuff that we have, or it's a Microsoft product, right? So it's built into stuff. It's fast. It's created with strong logic. It is integrated into things. So it's less user focused and more focused on whatever it's attached to. And then Perplexity, real-time research, accurate citations. It's not quite as creative. It's not really It's not going to create your touchy-feely property description, right? It's not going to create your beautiful copy for your ad. It's the nerd in the corner who has all the books, and you ask him, and he's going to give you the answer straight, and that's it, and not color it that much. I use Perplexity a lot because it really does utilize a research mindset rather than just a fill my text with fluffy results mindset. But then I usually then have to take that result and put it in a chat GPT or put it in a Claude and make it then sound nice, right? So that's those are the four main ones there. Now these are some others. These are some specialized platforms that come out. Jasper itself um, is is really good for branding. I mean, Jasper was really developed for marketing and advertising spaces. So very specific on branding. It's one that you can give it your like brand kit as far as what your colors are and your shapes and that kind of stuff, and it can really come out with content and stuff that's spot on with your branding. It's built for that. Um, it says, not ideal for deep analysis. It doesn't go into deep analysis. It really takes what you want and reorganizes it and puts it out in something nice. It's not going to go find new material. If you ask these guys to go out and find new material, you have a high likelihood of hallucination or it coming up with stuff that just isn't right. Midjourney, great visuals, just phenomenal graphics. It is very specific on its prompts because you're taking text and trying to make it create images, and people don't understand that saying make me an image of a dog creates far too many options and most likely won't be the one that you're thinking of, right? So you really have to work on prompts, and that's one of those that like the free version of it's going to be pretty limited, and your pay version of it is going to be pretty outstanding. So the difference between those two, and then Synthesia is another is like Midjourney, but it's really focused more towards video, short form video. Um, and again, the pay version is where it's going to get much more powerful. They work on tokens and things like that, and whether you can, how big of a file you're creating and all that kind of good stuff. And with a free version, you're going to be able to create, 3 or 4 second little clips that are funny, but not useful. If you wanted to use it in your company, you probably have to pay for that. Um, these are some other specialized workflow platforms that are plugged into stuff. And I hope all of these names are like keying things to people's head. They're like, oh, I've heard about that. I've heard about that. And know that they're not all just different AI things. They're very specific. So Grammarly is really about grammar and tone and clarity. It's about, working on copy and things like that. I would argue that ChatGPT nearly has Grammarly beat, other than Grammarly was a plugin tool that you can utilize in a lot of other copy creation tools. But ChatGPT has nearly everything that Grammarly has. Notion is a plugin that you can utilize on basically in all of your workflow platforms, your Gmail, your calendar, and stuff like that. It organizes, it summarizes things, it can automate some things as far as creating calendar events and stuff like that. It's pretty awesome as a almost like as an admin tool, a faster admin tool that's behind the scenes. Um,
Mhm.
Zapier has been around for a while. They've just recently built in some AI to them. Zapier is an automation platform, so you can like say, "Hey, when I get an email, then send an email and make a calendar event and go, turn on my kitchen lights or whatever." Like you can give it a task list of flows that it can manage. Go put some information in a spreadsheet, that kind of stuff. And now it has AI to help people create those a little bit better. Um, Make, I've never actually used. I've just read about it. Visual automation, so it can create some workflow patterns when you are trying to figure out how you get from point A to point F, right? What are my flows that go through there? And it kind of analyzes what you do and creates that. And then intercom is more around engagement and getting people together. Again, these are less used and very highly specialized platforms, so not broad base. So when you're like, well, which tool do I use? Well, figure out what you want to do, right? I've mentioned it a few different times on this, like I want to create a nice property description, or I need some nice ad copy for my Instagram reel, or I need some, that kind of stuff. Well, ChatGPT is probably one of your best, right? That's really where it excels. But if you're like, I want to get into research mode and maybe this isn't, well, if it is in real estate, I want to research this specific neighborhood to tell me, one, how did it come into being? What different phases did it go through? How did residential and industrial interact with it? And if you really get into research like that, Perplexity is going to be by far a better tool for that. And you're going to be able to look and see where it pulled that information from. When you're wanting to actually create content or visuals or something like that, Claude and Gamma, those are going to create much better visuals and be at it. This shows ChatGPT and content. ChatGPT is not as awesome on the actual graphics, great on the content and the copy, but it really falls short on the graphics, and that's when you jump into Claude. And you can use these tools together, right? And
Right.
I'll talk about that a little bit more about how I created this slideshow, right? So data analysis, ChatGPT, you want to throw a spreadsheet in somewhere and say, give me a summary of this, ChatGPT will do it. Visual content, Midjourney, Synthesia, these are ones that are very, very specific around photos, around graphics and video, and you're gonna pay for it. So these considerations. One is price, right? Are you trying to do one thing and paying two or three or $400 for a tool for a year is, a good idea or not a good idea? What's the learning curve? Like I mentioned earlier, these like Jasper and Synthesia and Midjourney, they really take like you got to work in that software. You have to really know how to build the prompt and be specific around it. If this is your first time and you need something professionally output, it might be better to hire somebody to do it rather than go and try to learn one, right? It's just tough. Flexibility, integrations, those, does it work with your tools? Is it flexible in that you can access it from multiple different sites? That kind of stuff. Privacy is one thing that a lot of people don't consider. I just mentioned uploading a spreadsheet, and let's say that spreadsheet is the we're in real estate. So let's say you got a spreadsheet from a title company, right? That's all the residents in this neighborhood, right? And you want AI to analyze it, right? You really do need to know what that AI tool's security policy and data policy and privacy settings are. Now, if it's all public data anyways, it's not that important, but a lot of people are using these tools to analyze their financial situations, right? Or I did toss in a fictional company's financial data set, right? I got their P&L and their income statements and all that kind of stuff and threw it in there and say, give me an analysis of this company and tell me about it. That was a fictional company that I threw in there because I wasn't sure on their privacy policies. Is when you throw data into these things, it's part of their system, right? They now know that. They have it, right? There is no, this is only my information. That is part, when you throw it to ChatGPT, OpenAI has that information, right? So be cautious of what you're throwing in there, right? Because that is something that will exist forever in the internet ethos and be owned by somebody other than you. So be cautious around their privacy. If you are utilizing you want to get into utilizing AI to analyze sensitive financial documents or sensitive meeting details. I mean, a lot of people that throw in their recording from this, closed door meeting in a chat GPT to have it analyze it and give them the minutes and the summary. Well, they just took that closed door meeting and gave all that information to somebody else, right?
Mhm.
So I specifically ran across that because I'm on an HOA board, right? And so we have our open session that's whatever, and then we have an executive session, and we have to be cautious the fact that that's not being recorded by AI because we don't have built into our bylaws that somebody else can own that information, right? So be cautious about what kind of security exists in these systems. All right. So we've talked about that. I want to give me a 5 minute. Are there any questions, any thoughts, or any comments up to that point? Because now we're going to dive into prompting.
I have a question for you since you're
Yeah.
asking. I've seen or just videos on social media lately about virtual staging. And I know that some of these products, I don't know if there's, it's an AI product that you mentioned today, but do you know one that works really well, that you've seen recently?
Well, ChatGPT will virtual stage that, right? Well,
Hmm.
you can throw up an image and it'll produce stuff. Gamma will do the same. Gamma does it in a little bit different way, and it's better to understand how Gamma works. Um, and there are multiple AI tools that can do that, but I think the most common would be ChatGPT that does that. I think the caution around that is to make sure what it outputs, because as much as chat as these AI tools can sound and feel very human, they aren't, right? And
Right,
so when you look at an image of a room, you know what that room is, right? You can tell that there's walls, that there's windows, that there's outside on the other side of the windows, that there's a couch there, that this is where people would walk. AI doesn't do that. AI is not a person. They don't know what that is. AI sees shades and shapes and things like that, and has classified these things as what, some human interaction with it has decided like, hey, when this shape looks like this, it's probably a wall, right? And so it needs to be this, right? And so AI doesn't understand that. And so be very careful when you throw an image in and have it produce virtual staging that the image that comes out has all the normal human stuff, right? Like I've had
right.
it replace a wall or, eliminate a window or put something in or completely misalign scale, right? You makes a small couch and makes the room look enormous and it's just not right. So that's that last 10% that we have to remember to put in to just that last little bit of oversight. Now, AI would be happy to correct it. That doesn't have feelings. You're not going to hurt it. If you're like, hey, you got rid of the wall on the left, please replace the wall, right? And it goes and replaces the wall, puts it back there. Um,
I actually have a cool story about using ChatGPT for that reason. We were putting together like a studio at our office, and I had no idea. Like I'm horrible with picking out stuff and seeing it visually. So I had just screenshotted, couches, rugs, and things through ChatGPT, and I put it in there, and I mean, it made it look beautiful. It just gave me the actual visual that I wanted, and then we ended up purchasing all those things for our studio. So really, really cool. If you can, give it good direct um, feed or tell it what to do and what it needs to see. I mean, it'll spit it out exactly how you want it.
exactly. And so that's where a lot of it, you can, if you're doing an office or something that has specific design details, you can give it like my color palette is, you know, blacks and greens and neutrals and whatever, right? Or my color palette is this, and you can actually even upload Pantone colors or the RGBs or whatever. You can get very specific around stuff, and it will do its best. That
Mm,
doesn't mean it's going to follow all of your rules,
right.
because when it comes to something and there's a choice, it's going to make a choice based on its own structure, but maybe not your structure. So you do have to double check it, but it is amazing in that manner, in that it will yeah, throw a couch here and a picture here. And for those that, you know, that's not their base, capacity to like 3D image stuff in their brain, that is enormous, right? And you can give it all that. But I like how you pointed out it is important that you're prompting, that your instructions are correct and succinct and detailed, because it is going to pay attention to that. Uh,
Right.
and that gets into the what is a prompt? So I know most people out there have used AI in some manner, so you know what a prompt is. You like research the how many people are in Muskogee, Nebraska, whatever, right? Tell me that, right? That's a prompt. That's just a basic stuff. Um, you know, give me a picture of a dog is a prompt. It's a bad prompt. It's a prompt, right? So you want to be as specific as possible, and you need to structure your prompt. And some people don't understand how the different aspects of a prompt that you can create. So it is the instructions to which AI is using to complete your instructions. Keep it specific. We're going to dive into a little bit more, like here are some core elements of how to create an effective prompt. Clarity and specificity. So, instead of give me a picture of a dog, give me a picture of a Labrador retriever, full grown in the woods with trees and and a
Running,
and a
sitting
run.
down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Sitting and running. Does he have a collar
Yeah.
or does he not have a collar? Like all of these things. What is he doing? Is he looking at the camera? Is he not looking at the camera? So that those kinds of specificity, context and background. Now, background itself, we're talking about an image, could be literally what the background is, right? But context is what are you using this for, right? Is this going to be blown up as a poster size on the on your wall, or is this going to be a an Instagram reel that needs to be 4 by 5 and this many things? So you give it the context in which it's trying to produce this. Same thing for non-image stuff. If I'm looking for, I need to research this neighborhood, give it some context as I'm a real estate agent and need to present on the history of this neighborhood. Like that's going to help it figure out what kind of history and what kind of output it's going to give to you, knowing how you're going to use it in the end, right? If it's, yeah, just give it that context. Um, Consciousness. Or conciseness, sorry. Conciseness. Tell it how long, right? I need this to be, 5 bullet points. Or give me a 10-page, fully written out, 7 to 10 paragraphs piece, right? Or give me 4 paragraphs, 3 sentences a piece about this, right? Or give me a slide deck that's no more than 10 slides with bullet points and no more than, 60 words on a slide, right? You can be that specific around how concise or how deep you want it. And that's important in it determining what type of output it wants. Role assignment. This is something that a lot of people just don't utilize or don't understand. You tell it what it is, right? Act as if you are a board member on the city council and you need to know more about this part of town because there's a vote about a highway running through it, right? And so it's going to put its mindset in the role of a board member who represents a certain part of the community and what they need to know, right? Or act as if a real estate investor who already owns hundreds of properties is interested in this specific area. So you tell it what you want it to be, right? And you're asking it to do that, and it will tailor its response for that. For more complex outputs, you can you can give it a start and say, I'm gonna refine this and step by step prompts. So you're gonna give it one prompt to start. It's going to give you an output, and then you're going to give it another prompt to refine it, and another prompt to refine it. This works a lot of graphics, a lot in presentations, a lot in coding. If you're just asking for a an output on research, you probably don't have a whole lot of steps, but you may, and it may end up just being a conversation. And then self consistency, which is you reprompt with some variation, or you're utilizing it within the same platform because, like Michael pointed out at the beginning, it learns how you work and who you are, right? It actually remembers all of the other prompts that you've had and what types of things that you really wanted it to do. And by signing in and it knowing who you are, it's going to create outputs that more align with what you want, just because it's going to start getting what you're expecting, right?
Mhm.
Um, so there's one that's in the step-by-step prompts that I want to expand on. You can tell it to ask you questions, right? And I would say tell it to ask you questions one at a time, right? So let's say you're trying to analyze something, whether it's good for you. Say, I want to analyze this business opportunity. Here's all their financials. Ask me questions one at a time to help me decide whether this is a good opportunity for me to invest in or not, right? And it's going to start asking you questions about your intent, what you want to do, and it'll do that. And then once you have enough information, then output me a report that gives me some advice on one way or the other, right? So it becomes this tool, this necessary, this back and forth, right? And it's phenomenal because in something like that, it's like you're all of a sudden in the room with 100 of the most perfect experts about whatever thing that you need to know, and they're all asking you the right questions at the right time to come up with the right response, and then you end up with exactly what you want, right? And I think that has been a revolution for me as far as how to utilize AI to help me make decisions on major things, on investing or on where should I go with this marketing platform, right? Or should I, you attend some seminar one day that says, "Hey, everybody should be, advertising on Reddit." Right. So you need to get your Reddit ads up and running. And so jump into AI and say, "Hey, I'm a real estate agent. I work mainly in this community and this has been my business for so far. I have been asked to advertise on Reddit. Ask me questions one at a time to help me figure out whether Reddit would be a good good platform for me to advertise on and would actually increase my business." Right? And it would start asking you questions, right? And you'd figure that out. I think that is amazingly powerful. Um, some examples, obviously, write about AI. That's too vague, right? I like this one specific prompt. Summarize the strengths and weaknesses of leading AI platforms for a business audience in bullet points under 200 words, right? So think about this. Think about AI as an employee that can do everything you ask, but doesn't necessarily assume what you want, right? So you have somebody that works for you that they're fantastic. If you gave them a write about, hey, go write about AI, you have absolutely no idea what they're going to come back with. It's going to be great, it's going to be good, but it might not at all be what you wanted. But if somebody walked in and said, "Hey, I need you to summarize the strengths and weakness of leading AI platforms for the business audience and give me bullet points in under 200 words," you would get that back from that assistant, right? It would take them a few days. It'll take AI a few seconds. There's your there's your big advantage for AI, right?
That's a great way to explain it. I think people overthink it too much when we're trying to give it directions, but that's the best way to explain how you need a prompt correctly.
Right, right. If this were another person, what would you need to tell them in order for you to get your correct results?
Yeah,
Same thing. So what's cool is then you can tell AI who to be rather than stuck with the one person that you hired,
yeah,
right? So here, act as a tech journalist. Explain how Gemini differs from ChatGPT in plain language. It's going to come out with something. I'd add to that, do it in 500 words or less, or give me a bullet point list, or whatever. Like, give me a little bit more detail
context.
on
Yeah,
context on what I'm going to be, or act as a tech journalist, explain how this produce a presentation that I can present to a board of directors next week, right? So now it knows your position, how this is going to be used in the future, and it's going to create something that's going to match those as close as possible.
yeah.
Yeah, chain of thought. Explain three ways. Provide one company example for each. So it's going to bring in those, and it kind of this says it breaks it into sequential steps. So it's going to explain three ways, and then it's going to provide the real companies, and then I'd say beyond that, once it output this, then I can go and say, all right, for company A, please tell me three examples of how they utilize these platforms. Company B, give me how they have changed their business model over the last 3 years. So you can just totally expand this out. And like I said, it is that I could sit in a boardroom with some very smart people and give them all of these things, and in a month or a month and a half, I would have this all out. Or I can sit in front of ChatGPT or something like this, and in 30 minutes or an hour, have something that would have taken me 2 months to get. Pretty amazing. All right, some practice exercises. So some stuff that you guys can take away. So platform comparison. So go log on to each of these platforms and ask them to do the same exact thing, right? And see how they come up differently, right? Go ask ChatGPT one very specific prompt. What's a good prompt? Like, give me just a good generic something that we could ask all of the AI tools. Yeah, give me any sort of generic prompt for them.
To ask the tools,
Yeah, yeah.
um, help me determine which AI platform is good to find research when it comes to the city of Phoenix, Arizona.
There you go. Or I would, yeah, and
You could dig a little deeper. Think like a
I'd say for
realtor.
for testing of the different platforms, um, go ask a pretty generic like, what's the history of the city of Phoenix, Arizona? Like
Mm,
that is very vague. And if you punch that into ChatGPT, into Gemini, into Perplexity, into Claude, you're going to get four very, very different responses, right? And go see, oh, I see how this one works. See how this one is working. Like, and you'll actually see how they're doing. Then you can get into this vague versus clear. So take that prompt. Give me the history of Phoenix, Arizona. Pretty broad, right? Take that and now modify it out. I am presenting to a small group of investors that aren't familiar with the city of Phoenix. I need the history of city of Phoenix, and I need to be able to present it in a concise manner. No more than 3 or 4 pages of text, and give me some bullet points and cite your references, right? And so that's much more clear. It knows who I'm going to present it to, where I'm going. So that's that's how we really dial that prompt down so that the AI tool gives us back what we want, right? Um, Role based, I just kind of did this. Assign the persona. I am this, or you are, act as if you are a board. This is something that actually realtors can play with a lot because you can role based prompt. We often role play, right, for
mhm.
practice. You can tell AI, hey, be a seller of a property that is that doesn't really want to lower their price and challenge me on my price adjustment scripts. And you can talk to them and they're going to challenge you, and then you're going to talk to them and you're going to challenge you, and then you can tell it analyze my work, analyze my scripts, and let me know where I could improve. It will do all of that. Let's see. These other two are, enter the same prompt 3 times in different ones, compare which ones. Multi-part prompt, kind of summarize the article and then list the impacts and then tell it what else to do. Like, I think these are natural chains that you guys are going to get through anyways. One thing I am going to add to this that wasn't in the presentation, probably because it was created by AI, is ask it to cite its sources and check its results, right? Especially if you're dealing with ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, right? I'd say Perplexity is not nearly as prone to hallucinations because it is a research tool. So it's like in its natural response, it gives you everywhere that it found that information. Whereas you put in ChatGPT, give me the history of Phoenix, it'll give you all that text, but you don't really have any idea where it pulled that from, right? And you don't really have an idea if it kind of misinterpreted some things or pushed things in line or out of line or what angle it had on that, right?
Right.
And so ask it, cite all of your sources, and double check your response. And when I've had it, I know when I've had ChatGPT actually try to give me, I'm not going to think of a specific example because I'm trying to, but I've told it like, hey, give me 10 bullet points on this and this and this, right? And I see and it gives me 9 bullet points. I'm like, what just happened, right? And so then I tell it, you only gave me 9 bullet points. Please give me 10. Oh, I'm sorry. And blah, it gives me 10 bullet points, right? And they're different or something like that. And we start getting off on sides. And so to battle that when I wanted something specific, like I need 10 bullet points, then at the very end of my prompt, please double check your output to make sure it aligns with my request,
Mhm.
right? Because it doesn't have that feedback loop all built into it, right? And one cool thing about ChatGPT is when you're in a specific chat, right? When you start a chain, then you can tell it for every response, please put in a feedback loop to verify that your response matches my request, right? And then for every response that's in that same chat, that same conversation, it's going to do that. If you start a new conversation, it's not gonna automatically put that in there, but it is going to force that feedback loop within there. And it's a nice, especially for ChatGPT and Claude, they both kind of do the same thing. They can get off on tangents and not quite follow your instruction, and you just have to ask it to do that thing. Hey, make sure that what you output is what I asked for, and it'll go back and be like, oh, I had to go back and change this because I only came up with 9 bullet points. Pretty cool. And kind of creepy, but pretty cool. So today, takeaways: experiment with multiple platforms, practice your prompting. It changes constantly, and talk about it with people. But the best way that I found out about how things can happen in AI is to see how other people are using it, right? And get in there and screw around with it. So that's the conclusion of what I was going to do. And I did tell you this entire presentation was created on AI. I went into Perplexity and I told it I am giving a presentation to other real estate agents. Uh, I need a concise presentation of no more than about 20 minutes of all of the AI platforms, their strengths and their weaknesses. And I would like you to also give me some excellent pointers on how to create prompts and your best practices on prompt creation, and give me some takeaway and some things that people can do on their own. Right. So that's what I wrote, right? And if you think about it, that's what would have gone through your mind if you're like, I need to do this, right? Well, you just put that out there and give it to the AI. Perplexity came out with this gorgeous thing. I went in and edited it just a little bit for some text and some whatever. Then I took that and I ran it into Claude, right? And I just copied and pasted. I just highlighted, copied, pasted into Claude and said, Claude, this is a presentation that I'm giving. It needs to be no more than, 10 to 15 slides. Please create this for me to present online and go. And it put this together. I created an HTML document, and I did not touch a thing after Claude. This is exactly what Claude created for me.
Nice. Spot
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, so that was it. And now it even asks, thanks for participating. And what other questions you got out there?
I think Beth had said something earlier where we might have to take you on and get you to come out and do like an in-person class. I think that's one of the things too. And maybe we can collaborate and kind of do that together. But that's one of the things I think realistically a lot of industry partners and realtors know about AI and some of these platforms, but the they don't do the work and they don't go on some of these and learn how to actually, use them. I think something like this platform, what you say, Perplexity or Quad? Quad was the presentation, right?
Yeah, Perplexity is the research genius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as far as like creating presentations, I mean that's a great way to leverage utilizing these in your consultations, whether you're with a buyer or a seller, to actually make it your own. Obviously, I know brokerages have different, guides and all these things, but if you're looking to create a brand, I think that's a great way to leverage that. And then there's a few tools out there that are video based that now do offer some of these AI features. One of them offers, basically direct editing, and it'll, create it, or it'll edit a video entirely for you and input all these images. It's not perfect by any means, but I mean, it basically takes out, some of the media companies that agents are paying for over $1,000, and you can
Yep.
basically do it on your own. And so
Yep.
these are things that I would definitely like to bring to the forefront on some of, whether it's through a webinar or an in-person class. But with that being said, I know we're out of time here. Chris, if there's anything else you have to say, let me know. But I just want to thank you for jumping on here and sharing your insights on what you're seeing, what you know about AI. Like you said, it's always changing, so it's always nice to try to be ahead of the curve when it comes to all these tools and resources.
Yeah, I guess as a final disclosure, I am a broker, so I'm ever aware of different brokerages and their stuff. I would say if you ever are using AI in real estate, run it by your broker. Make
100%.
sure that whatever output is going to be compliant, and it's not just compliant with ADRE, but compliant with your brokerage on what aligns there. So, open up that.
Love it. Well,
Yeah,
thank you, Chris. I appreciate you.
absolutely.
Anyone that's out there on the call, thank you so much for jumping on today. Don't forget to send us your escrows. We are here to service all your title and escrow needs. And of course, just a quick and big shout out to our sales and marketing team. If you guys need help with any business development, growing your business, or just need the tools and resources to help grow your business, reach out to any one of us. Our team is always available. I know the team is actually flying out to Vegas today for a sales conference, and we'll be back first thing tomorrow evening. So, just like you guys, we're always, looking to expand, learn new things, and just keep up with the time. So, thank you so much, guys. Hope you guys have a great Wednesday, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you all.
Chris, you're host still,
Well,
so hit
see
that
everybody
record
later. Have
button
a
and
good
then yep.
one.
Thank you. Chris, I appreciate you, man. We definitely need to do it again, whether it's in person or not. I'll talk to Beth. I know you work alongside with Beth, but maybe we could find like a mutual location. I could invite my agents, of course, all of our sales team, but yeah, I think AI is something that is not really taught a lot. So I mean, regardless, whatever value you could bring to the table,
Yeah,
we're all
yeah,
for it.
I think you're right. I think it's a lot of people out there winging it,
Yeah.
and we are seeing some places in which they're pushing envelopes that are beyond where they need to be, and just a lot of people that are scared to dip their toe in. And